Hello, Namaskar viewers. I am Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to this week's episode of the Business Talk with AJ. Business Talk Season 2, Episode 2. This is the show brings you all the things that you need to know about business and business areas, different areas of the business. And in this season, we are going to be talking about businesses where most South Asians are in. And AJ is going to give us all the things that you really need to know about the business, from startup to management to operation to execution and challenges and whatnot. So it covers full-fledged details about that certain business. So every week we're going to pick a certain business and we're going to give you information that you need to know. The show is brought to you by Science CPA Services, a professional accounting firm located in the state of New Jersey. Multiple locations can help you with the business setup to accounting needs, and also virtual CEO, virtual CFO, and any kind of tax related problems. They can help you with it. They can be reached at 908-380-6876 or sciencecpaservices.com is the website to make an appointment. With that note, I'd like to welcome Mr. AJ Kumar of Science CPA Services once again to this show, this episode. AJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sanjeevji. I appreciate the kind introduction. Thank you very much. And
Sure.
as you rightly said, every week we'll be touching upon one industry in business news section of this year. Last week we talked about IT industry. It was extremely very well received. Today we want to be talking about the trucking industry.
Okay.
So trucking industry is being used by a lot of South Asians, especially our Indian communities and Pakistani communities. We see a lot of truck drivers, and as simple as it seems, Sanjeevji, picking up the stuff and dropping it somewhere is an extremely complex business when it comes to taxes, finances, starting the business, running the business, keeping it compliant, and making a penny out of it.
Okay. All right. So let's find out. There are, many individuals are in the trucking business, and not only in the New York, New Jersey area, but nationwide.
Absolutely.
And in the West Coast also, they are in the trucking business, and some of them are doing very well. So why are they doing very well? Some of them are struggling. Some of them could not do very well. So we're going to find out all the information that you need to know in this episode about the trucking business, and we'll continue to move on from there. So let's start with the trucking industry, the basic information that you can share with us about the trucking information.
So let's see what the trucking industry is all about. A lot of these trucking industry people who owns the trucking companies, they used to be truck driver themselves. So typically the way it starts, somebody starts driving a truck for somebody else. This truck driver needs some sort of CDL, commercial driver license, especially if you are carrying more than 26,000 tons of the weight. You need a special driver's license, commercial driver license, they call it CDL. The trucking company has to have certain compliance, certain certification, especially if it's interstate. They need the US DOT number, Sanjeevji, or the MC number is typically, motor carrier number is typically what the trucking company needs. So this truck driver goes to a trucking company, I want to be a driver. And then the driver has strict requirements as how many hours you can drive continuously. When do you have to take the break? And they have to log it out. That I stopped the truck over there, I took this much break. You cannot be continue driving. Consider a situation how many car accident happens. Now push it forward. Instead of car, put a heavy, big truck. Now you drive half an hour, 1 hour. Put another person who is driving 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours continuously, a heavy vehicle. Then they're not driving in road, they're driving on the highways. There are a lot of highways, the speed is typically higher over there, the truck is really big, the drivers are tired. So there are a lot of accident prone type of situations over here when it comes to the trucking industry. So it typically starts where somebody starts driving for somebody else. Then the second step is they end up buying a truck. So they become what they call owner operator. You need to send something somewhere, call me, I'll bring my truck. So they become owner operator. And then as a next step, when the owner operator starts making some money, they buy a couple of more trucks and they have more owner operators or more drivers working for them. This is how a typical trucking company is formed.
Okay, so now let's talk about in the trucking company. There are private carriers, and then there's a for-hire carriers and local carriers. Which is really better one, safe one, to have a business run for many years?
Well, it all depends on where you are in the life cycle of your trucking company. So local carriers are typically carriers that will deliver locally. They typically wouldn't need interstate compliance licenses. So just because the license requirements are pretty hefty, and you can only drive so many hours continuously, so many hours in one day. So there are a lot of requirements around it. So a lot of people will start being a local driver first. Once they are local driver, then the next step is driver for hire, meaning I can drive locally, I can drive interstate, I have the right license, CDL and all. If you need my help, call me. That's called driver for hire. Then after some time, when driver for hire starts making some money, they buy some more trucks, and that's when they get into the private carrier or a trucking company type of business.
All right, so sounds interesting. So there we go. We have private carriers, we have for hire, and then we have local carriers. So these are the three most popular categories in the trucking business. Now, just like any business, trucking business also faces challenges. And as far as the safety concerns, of course, they have to follow all the safety rules. Perhaps maybe OSHA rules applies to them also. And then also truck drivers should not be driving too long, too much, must get at least 8, 10, 12 hours of rest and everything.
Absolutely.
Right. But one of the big challenges that AJ, that I want you to tell us is the insurance. How does the insurance work as far as the insuring the fleet of trucks and then workers' compensation and the other insurance categories for that business?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. So trucking company has a lot of challenges to it. And as you can imagine, in order for anybody to have a trucking company, they have to have a truck. And truck is not cheap. So there are a lot of requirements, a lot of compliance. But let's talk about the insurance first. So there are at a high level 2 types of insurance that a trucking company will need: workers' comp and general liability. As the name says, workers' comp typically covers worker, and general liability is general, covering everything else in general. So workers' comp, let's say these drivers are driving a lot of hours. These drivers typically drive night time. These drivers typically drive long distance. These drivers typically drive fast and heavy truck. So probability of having an accident here and there is comparatively higher than a typical situation, a typical car, typical driver. So there are a lot of situations when they have bodily injury, somebody got hurt or somebody got, God forbid, dead. So the workers' comp insurance will cover the medical expenses, workers' comp will cover bodily injury, workers' comp will cover death benefit claims. So all the workers related claims are typically claimed under workers' comp insurance. On the other hand, property damage or damage to the fleet is typically covered by general liability insurance.
Okay.
So workers' comp insurance can be extremely expensive for these type of trucking companies, depending on the history. And you also have to know a lot of time what people used to be able to do, which they cannot do anymore, which they are not able to do anymore. Once they had a claim under one company, now the insurance company will increase their insurance premium. So in that case, they used to be able to close that company, open another company with a different name just to start fresh. So the insurance company wouldn't know, based on the EIN number, based on the MC number or DOT number, that this is a different company. Now, these insurance companies are getting smarter. These insurance companies track the companies, the trucking companies, with the owner's information, with the address, with the family member, with the tax return. Oh, last time your wife owned the company, now you own the company. We cannot give you the insurance, or your insurance premium will be absurd. A workers' comp insurance for a trucking company with few trucks only, could be over $100,000. So that's a big expense when it comes to trucking industry. These insurance are so heavy, somebody else did something wrong. And now the insurance company has increased the insurance for everybody else in the industry. Okay. This is common practice over here.
All right, so workers' compensation insurance tend to be very, very expensive in the trucking industry, and then there is a general liability insurance also.
Absolutely.
Trucking industry and the owners of trucking industry, do they also give their employees 401k and proper health care coverage and everything?
Well, and I'm glad you asked. A lot of these trucking companies do not consider the driver their employees, because the drivers are considered as owner-operator, independent contractor. They're bringing their own driver. But the state and the IRS has a different way to look at it. Oh, this person is driving for you only. You are the main source of income for this person, for this driver. So this driver should be your employee, even though the driver is bringing their own truck, even though the driver is not working for you every day, every week. You call the driver when you need the driver. But the fact that the driver's primary source of income is only you, your company, the fact that driver himself has to drive the truck, meaning they can't really say, I'm not feeling well, can I have my wife drive it for you or my son drive it for you? The driver has to drive, because the driver is what you are hiring. Yes. The driver has the CDL, the driver has the right licensing. So the state government sees this relationship as an employee-employer relationship as opposed to a 1099 independent contractor relationship. And that's where the trick comes. What kind of benefits can you provide here? What kind of benefits you should be providing here?
All right. So that means it may vary company by company depending upon what structure they have internally between their employees or how do you call that? Call on availability drivers.
Yep. Available to hire.
Yes.
So even in this trucking industry, even available to hire truck drivers, unless they have multiple source of income, unless they are working for multiple companies, if you are the only source of revenue for them, if you are the only source of work for them, this is not an independent contractor relationship. They have to be employee. A lot of trucking companies do not put their drivers on the payroll. If they don't have the payroll, they cannot have the 401k.
Exactly.
They cannot have the health insurance. Meaning you cannot provide the 401k health insurance to an independent contractor.
I got it. Okay. All right. So they are independent contractors. All right. So we have come this far in this episode. Trucking company is the focus of the Business Talk show this week. Now we're going to take a short break and we'll continue to give you more information on the challenges and the other parts of the trucking business that's coming your way right after these messages. Stay with us. Welcome back to the second half of the Business Talk right here on ITV Gold. This is once again the weekly show, gives you all that things that you need to know about a certain business. Every week we pick on a business category and then we give you in-depth information about that business. The entire show is brought to you by Science CPS Services. Yes, tax accounting firm for your personal and corporate taxes, but they can also advise you on where to invest your money, what kind of retirement or benefit plan where you can invest money to save on your taxes, because Science CPS Services believes in doing taxes right. Do set up an appointment as early as possible by calling them 908-380-6876 or sciencecpsservices.com. As we are talking about trucking business, what are the good things? What are the difficult things? We don't say bad things. What are the difficult things about any business? So we're talking about trucking business, and we talked about insurance and the categories of trucking business. Now, let's go on to several categories. And of course, these are the categories where tax planning and structure comes into effect. So in case if you are in a business, if you are a truck driver on your own, and then if you have any question for the tax related matter, Science CPS Services can certainly help you out. All right, so AJ, after talking about insurance, let's go into the categories, and which one we're going to talk about first.
So we were talking about the employment, the
Yes.
W2, the 1099 and 401k and health insurance. Let's continue, let's finish that thought. It's tricky. If you don't have the right employment classification, sooner or later you'll get into trouble. So one thing you can do to make sure a lot of these trucking companies don't have anybody on the payroll. Make sure somebody is on the payroll. Make sure somebody is managing the business. I mean, you can say out of these 5 truck drivers, 3 are my employees, 2 are not. I hire them every now and then, and that's not their main source of income, and they are not my regular driver. But if you say everybody is independent operator, independent contractor, owner operator, that wouldn't work. So the way you want to handle the situation, it's very tricky. When you have somebody in the payroll, you have to pay the payroll taxes, you have to pay the FICA taxes, you have to pay certain withholding. And truth be told, a lot of these owner operators do not want to be on the payroll. As much as you as a company owner want to keep them on the payroll, they just don't want to be on the payroll. So you have to help them understand it's better for them. what's the gray area here? If these owner operators wants to be on 1099, you ask them to form a company first. I cannot give you the 1099. You form a company, give me a certificate of the workers' comp insurance, that you have the workers' comp insurance. I'll hire you as a 1099 independent contractor. 2 steps in the process. You want to be on 1099, form a company and get me a certification for workers' comp insurance. So you have to make sure you do it right, otherwise the potential of being audited is extremely high.
Okay, all right. So that's one thing. Second thing is record keeping. How does record keeping work for this? Since they don't have employees, the owners of the business, do they really need to keep records?
Absolutely, it's must. You have to know this industry works on thin margin. The client is paying $100. The owner operator, the truck driver is taking $90 out of this $100. So when you are working on thin margin, it's extremely important to maintain proper record. If you don't have proper record, if you are not issuing 1099 or W2 to the employee, to this independent operator, the IRS, the state can deny your expense. Let's say if you are paying somebody in cash, God forbid, or you gave them the money, sometime it was given to their company, sometime it was given to their name, sometime it was given to their wife's name. That's not okay. You have to keep it clean. At the end of the year, you see who are truly independent contractor, give them a 1099. If they're employee, give them a W2. Make sure you keep proper records, so tomorrow if there's an audit, you can justify that the margins are really low. That's why you're paying lower income tax than higher income tax.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Very, very well. All right. Giving you all the details that you need to know. Trucking company, now we know they need to keep record also. And insurance part we covered. We covered workers' compensation and everything. Now the question comes, audit risk.
Absolutely. I'm glad you reminded me. Audit risk is extremely high when it comes to the labor audit. A lot of trucking companies do not see income tax audit. In IT industry, we see more income tax audit, as we were talking about last week. In this week's segment, when we talk about trucking companies, we are talking about a labor audit. Labor audit generates from misclassification of your employees, contractors, people who are working for you. The question is, should they independent contractor, should they owner operator, should they have been your employee as opposed to 1099 contractor? And that's when the state looks at the criteria. Is your work primary source of income for them? Is your work, is the actual thing that they did last year, or most of the things that they did last year? Other than your work, are they getting any other work from other companies? Do they have to drive this truck themselves, or can somebody else drive the truck? So the state will look at a lot of criteria, and a lot of times we find that these independent contractor, owner operators should have been the employees for the trucking company. As we were discussing in the first segment, the way you get around this situation, if somebody really insists on being a 1099 independent contractor, you ask them to form their company and give you a workers' comp certificate under their company.
Okay. All right. So, that's one of the categories that we covered now. What are the other things, the most critical things that we need to cover in this category?
Well, you have to remember a large initial investment is needed. Yes. When it comes to trucking company, these trucks are not cheap. And when you
But then, before we go into investment, sorry to interrupt you, why don't we talk about permits and licenses?
Oh, wonderful.
That is also important, because investment is going to be a detailed topic. I just want to cover the small things first.
So, as you can imagine, this is a highly regulated industry.
Right.
The government doesn't want anybody to be driving a huge truck on the highway. The government wants to make sure they have the right licenses.
Of course, the large trucks are going to be there because they're going to be carrying large delivery of whatever this is. But proper licensing is required.
You have to have a CDL, you have to have Department of Transportation registration, you have a motor carrier number, you have an MC number.
Correct.
So the industry is highly regulated industry. In order to start a trucking company, you have to make sure you have certain license, certain registration in place, you have to pass certain exams, you have to get a CDL, commercial driver's license. So when it comes to licensing, when it comes to compliance, you make sure you keep the paperwork handy.
Absolutely. Okay, this is the most important part. This part comes in, we're going to talk about capital investment. That's the first thing, but the permit license comes in after that. Now, structure of the company. What's
Wonderful.
better for them? S corporation, C corporation, LLC? What works best?
Well, in most cases, an S corp structure is what we prefer.
Okay.
If you have a situation where you have foreign owners, or the trucking company is owned by a trust, owned by something else, then you may consider a C corporation. In the sense, let's say if your S corporation is owned by an LLC, then you cannot have an S corporation in this example. So the preferred structure for most cases is S corporation. If you are owner operator, you can get away with LLC as long as you have the workers' comp. If you have a situation where you have foreign ownership or foreign funding, in many cases where you had to issue the stocks over there, or your company is owned by a trust or an LLC, then you will go with C corporation.
All right, and if you're still confused between S corporation, C corporation, LLC, you can contact CPS, Sai CPS Services, ask for AJ, and they will help you out. Quickly, we got less than 2 minutes left. Let's talk about capital investment and
Absolutely.
the challenges.
Wonderful, 100%. So when it comes to capital investment, as you can imagine, this is a capital intensive type of business. You need a lot of money to start a trucking company. Nobody will give you the truck just because you have the CDL. You have to bring in at least 20%, if not 30% down. These trucks are a couple of $100,000. I mean, you see the truck. These are expensive machinery. So you have to have large amount of money in order to grow, create your own company. Moving from owner operator to I have 5 trucks type of situation, you need a lot of funding. You will need somebody, a bank giving you the money, some private lender, a line of credit, or somebody giving the equipment financing. There are a lot of companies out there, private companies, the interest rate may be slightly higher than a typical brick and mortar bank. But in the beginning, you do what you have to do, and you have to arrange this money before you can buy a truck, start your own trucking company, or have an owner-operator type of situation.
All right, so a huge amount of cash needed,
Absolutely.
Obviously. We can't put in the numbers because it all depends upon what kind of company structure.
Absolutely,
you're
it's
gonna
more
be
like
having.
what type of truck,
Yes.
how heavy truck, how much you want to buy, how many trucks you want to buy. Trailers are typically cheaper, but when it comes to truck, the range is pretty big.
All right, quickly, major challenges, and quickly, in less than a minute, we need to cover major challenges that you can share with us.
Absolutely, Sanjeev. So let's talk about the major challenges this industry has. As you can imagine, when somebody is driving heavy truck, long hours on the highway, fast speed, accident are bound to happen.
Yes.
So when it talks about accidents and collision, that's a major challenge for this industry, and it has rippling effect. When you have accident and collisions, it increases the insurance, and not just for your company, all the companies like you, because the insurance companies have to pay out somebody. So when we see a trucking industry, we understand the accidents are going to be there, collisions are going to be there.
And because the roads and bridges
Absolutely,
and wherever they're going to be
absolutely,
traveled, not
absolutely.
everything is in a good condition.
100%. So
All right, so
look
accident and collusion, that they need to be careful because your insurance and everything depends upon that, and success of the business also depends upon that.
Absolutely.
That you need to have good ratings, not accident and everything else. And the last but not least, economic implications.
100%. So as the rate increases, as the fuel cost increases, everything increases.
Yeah.
As the China stopped sending the ships out, and suddenly you see the trucking industry rates have gone 10 times. India has COVID, supply is not coming, the rates have increased 10 times. So this industry gets influenced not by the economic conditions in the country, but the economic condition around the world. Something happened in China, now they are not releasing the cargo from there, not enough supply, and everybody is on the street.
Okay. All right. So economic implications, in my opinion, is one of the major challenges
Absolutely.
in this business.
Absolutely.
All right. So with that note, we come to an end of this Business Talk, second episode of the second season. And we thank Mr. AJ Kumar of Sai CPS Services for his guidance and in-depth information that he shared with us. Next week, when we meet, same place, same time, we're going to have another industry for you. And we have picked on industries where mostly South Asians are the owners, are participating in those businesses. So that way they can have all the information, business owners, that they really need to know. Once again, AJ, thank you so very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
I am Sanjeev Pandya. Until we meet again, I wish you all happy and smiley days ahead. So long.
Thank you.